All of your zombie friends will love this brain cake.
Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Hello everyone. For this brain cake, I decided to use a red velvet cake mix. You could use whatever kind of cake you want in the mold that you have. What I liked about this red velvet cake mix, first of all, it was red, and also it's a very small mix. It only makes about a dozen cupcakes. It makes a very small amount. It's about half the size of a regular cake mix. So I prepared it according to the box directions by adding oil and egg and water, and I blended that up. Now if you're using a regular cake mix, you probably have to cut it in half, or if you're using your own from scratch recipe, you'll probably have to use a half recipe because these brain molds are usually fairly pretty small. This one I bought at Michael's. It's made out of silicone. I greased it up really well with some cooking spray, and then I poured that cake mix in, and I pretty much used all of it, and it came up to about 2/3 up the sides of the mold. You don't want to fill it to the top, of course, because it'll overflow when the cake rises during the baking. So bake it until it's done, and then let it cool. Now, it's easier to handle silicone molds if you put them on something to put them in the oven. I use a baking dish, but you can use a cookie sheet. Now, this particular brain is going to be coated with some gelatin. So that's a cup of boiling water, a package of 4 ounces of strawberry gelatin, sugar-free. I added an additional package of unflavored gelatin, and then I mixed that together until all the gelatin was dissolved. And then for the second cup of liquid, I added half and half. Or you could use heavy cream or milk, just so it gets that pastel pink color. Now I wanted this more of a real brain color, and I added just a little bit of purple food coloring, paste food coloring, and stirred it around, and it turned into a purpley pink color, which is what I wanted. So there's the cake out of the oven. I let it cool for about 15 minutes, and then I turned it onto a wire rack to let it cool completely. You clean out your brain mold with some soap and water, dry it, and then I put a little bit more cooking spray into it. Then I poured in about half of that gelatin mixture in the bottom, and then I put the cake back in. Now I put it in backwards the first time, so I had to take it out and turn it around and put it back in. Luckily the cake didn't break apart, and it worked out well. Once the cake's back in, you'll take the remainder of that gelatin mixture and you're going to pour it between the mold and the cake. And as you're pouring, you'll see the cake will actually start to float up. It'll float up like a little boat on the ocean. And then you're going to put this whole thing in the refrigerator and let it refrigerate until the Jello is completely set, at least a couple of hours. And then I cut the domed part of the cake off because I want this to sit flat on a plate. So I put a plate, flipped it over, and then I saw the mold release. I was really happy. And then you get to see if it actually is going to turn out. And you pull the silicone off, and there you go. A perfect brain. I was so happy with the way this looked. But to make it a little bit more gory, I used some red decorating gel, and I just drew on in the crevices of that brain just to define all the little nooks and crannies and folds of the brain. And then that's pretty much it. You can serve it to your Halloween party. Of course, you're going to decorate it with a few spiders and that to make it look extra creepy if you want to. Now here's what it looks like inside when you slice it, and you can see the gelatin actually kind of sunk into the cake as it was cooling. So it gives it a really kind of a gory look. Here's a close-up of that. It looks really kind of really terrible with the red velvet and that Jello, but I guess, I don't know, maybe the creepiness factor will be increased if you do it that way. I'm not sure if this would look better with a white cake mix or not. I don't know. You'll have to decide. Now, when I served this piece, I added a little bit of raspberry sauce that I had in the refrigerator, and it made it look extra gory. I have an entire playlist just full of great Halloween treat ideas for your Halloween party, including these killer strawberries that I made last year. The link to the playlist and the video will be in the description box and on your screen. Thank you for watching.